Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm pleased to be joined by Caressa Long, who is a public affairs specialist with the federal government. Hi, Caressa. How are you?
Hi, Sue. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been so much fun chatting with you and getting to know you better. And I mean, we have just found through our short conversation a shared love of Seattle. So very, very cool.
Yes, from the Pacific Northwest, it is my home, and so I'm happy to share it with everybody.
And then we are also chatting. I mean, it's not a secret. Caressa is geo-batching, so you're going to hear a lot of tips about geo-batch. Thank goodness. But I say let's go ahead and get started. Caressa, what do you think?
Of course.
And then before we do get started, I have asked everyone, like as a kickoff, to just tell us a little bit about your professional military spouse career journey and how you got to where you are now.
Okay. Well, before I start, I do need to preface my interview by saying, as a federal employee, my views are my own and do not reflect those of my agency. So,
Uh,
with that out of the way, my start as a military spouse was honestly all a series of coincidences. So, I met my husband in 2015 or 2014, the end of 2014, and he saw me at work at the mall. And the next day we happened to meet each other in like a group setting, and he's like, "I know you," and I'm like, "How?" He's like, "You work at PacSun." She's like, "Oh my
I'm
goodness."
stalking you.
Yeah. I really thought that at first. He was like, "No, no, no, I was there yesterday. You don't remember me?" I'm like, "No." But after getting to know him, we got married 6 months later and moved to Italy. Your typical military story. We got married at the courthouse and we moved abroad. And now this year in July, it's gonna come up on 10 years. And
Wow.
so it's it's been fun. It's been different from what I thought my original life plans or how they were gonna go, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
And I'm laughing because Caressa's life plan was to go to Japan. So, I mean, as the military says, you say you want to go to Japan because you study Japanese, and of course, you end up in Europe.
Yes. So that is very typical military fashion. This last go around, my husband, they told him, "Oh, what are your top three duty stations?" He put Japan, and they was like, Georgia.
Yeah, right? Enjoy Georgia. It's the same thing, right? Not too
Yeah.
hilarious. So you were talking
Yes.
about how, you kind of ended up in a different place than you thought you would be. What did
hmm
you major in college, and like how did that actually factor into your career?
So I majored in political science with a focus on international governance in college. And I thought that I was gonna like go to law school right after, you know, intern for like an NGO, be very international based, and then come back to the United States and become a prosecutor. None of that happened.
Right.
I minored in social media marketing in 2021, and that has played the bigger role in my career trajectory, because now I do social media for the government.
That's interesting how that worked out because yeah, and I was talking to Carissa a little bit before, and I'm like, that doesn't mean just because that's where you are now doesn't mean you can't ever go back to law school. So don't put
Yeah.
it out for too long. But no, that's interesting about the social media marketing, and I bet you never knew that when you were minoring in that was going to end up being your focal point. Um,
Not at all, because growing up as a millennial, social media, my parents were always like, "Oh, you're spending too much time on a computer." I'm definitely a MySpace girl, Tumblr girl, OG. Always coding, updating my profiles, making it look snazzy. And you're wasting your time. You need to be studying. And now that's literally my job.
yeah, you get to have the last word. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. But like being in social media though, I have to think it's really challenging, especially now because people are jumping from platform to platform. How do you stay up to date? And like, how do you, like, it's easy enough when, well, it's easier in in our personal lives to choose what platforms we want to be on. But like, how
Hmm.
do you choose when you're building a professional brand what platforms you want to be on? So I guess that's two questions. How do you stay up to date, and how do you choose what platforms to engage on?
So how I stay up to date is really just being chronically online. I was saying before, I would always get in trouble for being online. Now that is how I stay up to date on trends in your own personal capacity. You probably won't notice a trend until it's already hit its peak. But as a professional, I can see when I'm scrolling down my own personal feeds, like, oh, I've seen 3 videos where creators are doing this type of editing style, and I haven't seen that before. It's trending. It's it's different in a for the government, I should say. I think most agencies, if a website is popular, they'll be like, "Oh, let's hop on this website. It's really bubbling up." If it aligns with their brand, of course. But for the federal government, it's truly about, yes, reaching the people, but also keeping in operational security. So mostly when you're going through, you have to do like a series of verification steps if you can get like certain user agreements. So the government tends to stick to tried and true social media networks like Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram, WhatsApp, those type of places. So you don't see the federal government on, say, like a TikTok, which is huge with industry.
So sometimes the selections are made for you by virtue of who
Yeah,
that makes sense. So then when
yeah.
you're staying up to date on the platforms, do you find yourself going after additional certifications, or do you just take online classes? How do you stay, like how do you just stay up on like new metrics, analytics, etc.?
Honestly, I just watch YouTube videos. For
Really?
me, for myself, YouTube University, tried and true right here. I've got my PhD in YouTube.
Very cool. And it's
You
free.
know, yes, and it's free. Yeah, so basically YouTube, if you YouTube, what are the 2025 social media trends that you'll be seeing? Tons of videos will pop up. On LinkedIn as well. I sign up to a lot of like social media managers like newsletters, and they have things like that. So not necessarily taking a course for anyone who's thinking about getting into social media professionally. It's all about building your own portfolio. Like I said, I minored in social media marketing and graduated from college in 2021. Hashtags are dead. TikTok is the most popular app in the world, and YouTube is trying to move their content towards the shorts.
Right.
In 2021, my classes were not talking about any of this. So it was kind of like not relevant to go to college for social media because social media is such an ever evolving landscape. Like I said, I used to be on MySpace. I moved to Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Social media changes so much. There it's honestly just getting on the platforms, learning how to use them, maximize your audiences and engagement, and building up your portfolio, showing companies or agencies like, hey, I know how these apps works. I know how to spot trends. I know how to develop a growth strategy.
No, that's really great tips because like you just graduated 4 years ago, and for you to say that everything that you had just learned was pretty much, I mean, the baseline is still good. Like like
Hmm, yeah.
the baseline of how to engage with social media, et cetera. I imagine that's still good, but like the relevance of
Yes.
the platforms, that's already OBE. Like you're already looking at new platforms, or different ways to
Yes.
use the same platforms. Like you're saying that YouTube is going from long form to shorts. And then yeah, no, that's great. Um,
Yeah.
so we had teased that you're geo-batching, you're in a
Hmm.
geo-batch situation. I love your story about how I hope you guys go back and read Carissa's highlights, by the way, online. Like she has a long form highlights where she talks about all this. But for those who haven't yet, or for those who read it and now want to know more, I know that like you had moved and then you got your dream job and your husband was like, yes, 100%, I support you, go do it. And then he encouraged you to move across the country to support your dream. That can't have been easy, though. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, you certainly went into it with your eyes wide open, but I think sometimes people are, like they may not take into account all the things that go into making that kind of decision. So it couldn't have been an easy decision for you to make, to decide to go that route. And I know you emphasized keeping an eye on finances, but can you share some other considerations that people should look out for when considering the geo-batch life?
Yes. So had I been asked this question now, I probably would have gave like a completely different answer when I was first filling out the interview form. And I feel like I've grown like 17 years since then. But besides finances, thinking about the emotional cost analysis that it would do to you and your family is something I would really, really sit down and like discuss at length with my spouse because geo-bashing, this is our first time living apart. Like my husband, every time he would have like a deployment ramp up, it would like get disbanded at like the last minute, so he would never end up leaving. And when we first got married, he was high tempo in a high tempo unit for training, so he would be gone for 3 months, come back for a month, gone for another 3 months, come back for a month. That was like the cycle. I would always expect him to come back at some time, but now it's on the other hand. I left, he's at his duty station down south, and I'm going through all these new life experiences, life events, personally and professionally, and he's not here to share those moments with me. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I didn't really consider how I would feel not being able to share these key happy times, sad times with my husband. I have to call him and be like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what just happened to me at work today. I got an award for like social media innovation. And he's just like, yeah, that's so great. When normally I probably would have came home with my certificate and just be like, oh my God, look. And it's just like those little things I did not fully think about when I said yes to the job and just left. It wasn't like that dramatic, but I was just like so happy. I get to choose me. I get to do my career. I'm gonna go. And my husband's like, yeah, girl, you go. Believe in you, babe. Good luck. You're gonna kill it. And we kind of just were like, yeah, this is gonna be easy. We're on talk about finances. That's like the major hurdle. When we totally just like disregarded like the emotional part of how we were gonna feel. He's experiencing new things at work and I'm not there. He recently had a family day and he was like, yeah, honestly, this really sucked because I was the only person there that didn't have any family. And I was like, yeah, I can see that I'm getting like a bunch of memories on social media. Like on this day, you were at a military ball with your spouse. And I'm like, dang, it is ball season. And I'm not there. So I will say definitely when if you're considering geobaching, do really think about those things, how it's gonna, what emotional tolls it's gonna take on you, your family, and your finances. Because you will think like, oh, this is gonna be easy, and then you're 2, 3 years down into like your geo bash, and you're like, wow, I kind of just want to go home to my family.
So I appreciate your candor. I mean, that can't have been easy.
Mm.
Yeah, but you know what? This year is the 250th anniversary of the Army, so no excuses. You should find that ball. You've got to go to that ball.
Yes, I actually got invited to a ball because I have so many friends who got stationed at JVLM from our travels and stations in Italy. I got invited to a military ball at JVLM, and it's right around the time my husband will be coming to Seattle to visit.
Awesome.
So I was like, hopefully we can go, and this it's not his unit, so he doesn't have to be in uniform.
Oh, that'll be so cool.
So yeah. we're kind of excited to go to a ball as like both complete guests.
No, that is fantastic, and I love that for you guys. And I thank you so much for your candor. I mean, I really appreciate you digging deep and sharing the challenges of being a geo-batch couple. So I guess in closing, I would just ask, is there anything you would do different?
Something I would do differently, honestly, no. Besides, like I said, I would consider way more heavily the emotional aspects, but choosing to follow my dreams, or anyone choosing to follow their dreams, you can never go wrong. Um, I had went through a grueling 13 interviews in 1 month for the federal government with different agencies in different departments. And oh, you are a second choice. Oh, you are a second choice. Oh, you're a second choice. And then my current agency was like, we actually knew we wanted you the moment we saw you on the camera, but we had to go through the process.
So cool.
So having that, and then having the workspace where they allow me to be innovative. Like I said, I got an award for AI implementation and social media innovation for my agency. Uh, and giving me the space to like bring what I learned and the skills I developed in the private sector to the federal government and to share the good work that we're doing. it was it's amazing. And so I wouldn't change anything. I'm following my dreams. I'm a civil servant, and I'm here helping my fellow Americans.
Love it. And we need people like you in the government. Thank you, Carissa. And
Thank
thank you
you.
guys for joining us today and our friends over at USA for making these conversations possible. I hope you'll join us back here next week to hear from another inspirational military spouse. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day.